The misconception of price crossing was the most difficult year for decision-making in China. The situation is chaotic and complex, with various elements blending into different arrangements, the combination of policies. And behind the complexity lies the confrontation of interests and strategies, which makes it difficult for relevant parties to understand the situation. However, policies that have been overturned have been repeatedly taught by the market, such as price limit orders and external limit orders, which are equivalent to diminishing usage. Multiple equilibria are leading macroeconomic regulation towards macroeconomic coordination, but this does not mean that the original path was wrong, but rather that the space for success has been squeezed out. The reason why decision-making is so difficult is that the logical clues to the crux of the problem have not been sorted out yet, and we don't know how to take the path of comprehensive marketization. So we can only lie on the ground, just as we have just become familiar with the marketization of consumer goods prices. Its history quietly passes by, while the prices of production factors a crisis is brewing. Firstly, asset prices are facing deep adjustments. The stock price has been halved, bank wealth management products have disappeared, private equity and QDII have been liquidated, and land prices have performed a roller coaster. The turning point of housing prices is in direct confrontation with diving, and credit has tightened the funding chain of some real estate companies, leading to an asset price crisis. Secondly, the prices of resource goods are all trending red, although domestic resource prices have not yet been fully liberalized. The surge in international oil prices, grain prices, gold prices, and other factors has driven domestic prices to skyrocket, causing fluctuations in non-ferrous metal prices. In March, the factory prices of crude oil and raw coal increased by % year-on-year. The inverted oil prices both domestically and internationally have caused oil giants to suffer more and more losses, with Sinopec's performance declining by % in the first quarter and frequent oil shortages. Thirdly, the labor price crisis has been released early by domestic and foreign factors. The subprime mortgage crisis has brought about massive layoffs in the financial industry. In the past 9 months, Wall Street has laid off more than jobs. Global inflation has kept wage growth from keeping pace with CPI growth. From American writers to NDH police to British teachers, strikes have become a means of demanding wage increases. The domestic labor cost has also been steadily increasing due to the implementation of the new labor law, the increase in minimum wage standards, and the mismatch between labor supply and demand. In the first quarter, the average salary of urban on-the-job workers increased by % year-on-year, while pilots. It also weakens the vigilance of relevant parties towards the international financial strategy hidden behind the financial crisis, which began with Soros selling short the Thai currency. From this perspective, it is the openness and complexity of the system, as well as the enormous imagination space of currency value, that objectively determines finance, the arrival of civilization's fate. At the same time, the stability brought about by complexity and the calm waves brought by Chinese-style closing positions make Chinese people who are accustomed to gradual and passive correction subjectively unclear and unprepared for this new fate. However, in the middle of the management's balance of the asymmetry that arises in reality, in the spontaneous real practice of the private sector in addition to the stock market, there are also the emergence of private finance such as Guanqi and Zhejiang Fund, which has accelerated the process of financial opening up, gradually separated the real economy from the virtual economy, and formed financial awareness and rules. It can be seen that China is unconsciously entering the door of financial civilization, and the muddled state dragged by reality is expected to continue for a long time, due to a lack of understanding and reflection on the new civilization. The original regulatory methods have still been followed. However, as regulation has been repeatedly falsified, traditional theories and empirical methods have been overturned one by one, and all sectors of society will gradually recognize the situation and understand financial civilization. China and the United States essentially belong to the same group of people. In fact, superstitious markets and superstitious state-owned enterprises belong to the same era. Experts and scholars mostly believe in the market, while officials, most people, are superstitious about the state. This generation of experts and scholars has been basically indoctrinated with classic Western economic theories advocating for the magical power of the invisible hand of the market and reducing government intervention. Among these scholars, the most typical is Wu Jinglian, who is C. Market, and Gao Xiqing and others were influenced by it. As for contemporary officials, they always believed in the power of the government, believed in cybernetics, and preferred to concentrate their efforts on major issues, which was also the main source of the lingering state-owned concept. Between these two, those scholarly officials who excel in learning and become officials, who have achieved the transition from being experts and scholars to officials, have experienced a personality split. They are both superstitious about the market and difficult to resist the temptation of state-owned enterprises, towering above the temple and guiding the country. To put it simply, they are using the market to gain benefits and administrative monopolies to profit from competition. In recent years, officials who have parachuted into state-owned banks as bosses have used the name of shareholding and marketization to give rise to the phenomenon of millions of annual salaries, which is just a microcosm of it. As for market efficiency and government efficiency, whether in the entire history of economics or in the middle, who is higher or lower, there has been a long-standing debate in the process of market-oriented reform in China. Putting aside the linear thinking of either this or that, objectively speaking, the key to better and healthier reform lies in having or hedging these two efficiencies. From the perspective of value orientation, relevant departments want to have both market efficiency and government efficiency, and objectively, The great success of the Chinese economy in the past years also depends on the full combination of these two. However, in recent years, the frequency of hedging between the two sides has increased. Whether it is health care reform, housing reform, education reform, public utility reform, resource price reform, etc. It is either too market-oriented or the government's power is too strong, resulting in obvious negative consequences of hedging. The efficiency of the US government is very high, and its glory comes from the combined force of plus generated by the superposition of two efficiencies. But it deceives other countries to give up regulation and only want a market economy. If Chinese reformers listen to their deceit, as long as the market does not want government efficiency, they will undoubtedly be deceived. Deliberation, but punishment is not applicable to officials, which is not detrimental to the increasing trend of administrative monopoly. Objectively speaking, behind this phenomenon of slow and swift dual heaven, there is a change in the weather of reform, which means reform we have shifted from the field of ideology to a strategic layout at the level of interests. During the pro-reform period, the attention of various sectors of society was focused on the basic direction of society, such as whether the reform should be carried out, whether it was capitalist or socialist, etc. This also sparked two major reform debates in the early S and early S. Deng Xiaoping cleverly bypassed these ideological disputes and successfully opened up an era of development through his speeches on three treatises and Southern Expedition. In the post-reform period, reforms were constantly hijacked and internalized by interest groups, and people with rice in their hands began to let their buttocks determine their minds, setting various obstacles at the level of interests. As for the current regulation of capital finance and the rapid efforts of state-owned enterprises and state-owned enterprises, but the slow response to market construction and scientific coordination, this seemingly split phenomenon is the result of the distribution of interests. Take China Investment Corporation as an example. CIC has gathered a group of high-level officials from the Ministry of Finance, Huajin Corporation, the China Banking Regulatory Commission, and the National Development and Reform Commission. It is not difficult to infer from the identities of influential senior officials at the ministerial and deputy levels that CIC has actually concentrated the ideas and interests of a generation. The chairman was originally a reformist expert in the market economy known as one of the three swordsmen of economic system reform. But later, as the official ladder rose, he became obsessed with the effectiveness of state-owned and administrative monopolies. If it is said that this dual personality of front and back fracture is caused by the buttocks determining the brain, it is probably not too much. The duality of this personality is more evident in another reformist swordsman, the general manager of CIC. As one of the earliest sea turtles to land in China, he returned home from Wall Street in the S with the belly full of Western economics Inc. Similar remarks such as "what we want is a clean market and let the market manage the market" clearly indicates his market-oriented background. Due to his successful initiation of the establishment of the Chinese securities market, he also rose to prominence in his career. Afterwards, he also showed a similar fascination with the hands of the government. In terms of this issue, the leaders in relevant fields between the usefulness of commodities to human beings, proposes utility value, and reveals various needs in human nature. Bentham's utilitarianism, marginal schools utility theory, Dewey's pragmatism. Due to significant differences in understanding industrial civilization, it has been in constant conflict since its inception, until the Cold War in the second half of the 20th century. Industrial civilization has gone through hundreds of years, and its laws have been effective in 100 years. Marx's Das Kapital, Marshall's Economics, and Keynes' general theory of employment, interest and money are classics, and indeed guide the socio-economic operation. In the mid to late 20th century, with the popularization of computers and the Internet, information civilization entered human society. The characteristic of information civilization is that the spread of social induction and information transmission is very fast, greatly changing the original production and lifestyle. For example, computers have changed traditional manufacturing technology and production processes, and the Internet has changed people's consumption and communication methods. Toffler once provided a phenomenal description of information civilization but did not touch upon the fundamental principles. The general equivalent of information civilization is information. Wherever there are many concepts, money flows there and wealth is generated. The new economy that originated in the S is a concentrated manifestation of information civilization, with NASDAQ being a representative of information civilization, and a large number of digital heroes becoming beneficiaries of information civilization. It has only been 30 years since the emergence of information civilization, during which there have been countless changes. Moreover, the philosophical foundation of information civilization is the principle of uncertainty, which makes it difficult to summarize unchanging laws. Therefore, in recent decades, it has been difficult to come up with grand works that have taken decades. From the above civilization process, it can be seen that the evolution of civilization is accelerating, from thousands, hundreds of years to decades year. Nowadays, there are many phenomena in the social economy that are different from the forms of civilization in the past, and various phenomena cannot be explained by past knowledge. The financial industry is playing an increasingly important role in some countries, surpassing the functions of any single industry. For example, the amount of tax paid by the high earners in the City of London has accounted for a quarter of the income tax income of the whole UK, and a quarter of the UK corporate tax also comes from this region, which is generally the case for Wall Street in the United States. Once China's securities industry was launched, it developed with the thunderous momentum. In just over a decade, the stock market is accustomed to using the laws of industrial civilization and information civilization to explain, study and judge financial problems. The development of the securities market according to geometric series conforms to the laws of financial civilization, but meets the logic of industrial civilization regulation and intervention according to the development of arithmetic progression. The so-called P/E ratio, securitization rate and valuation model in the inherent knowledge system have been repeatedly denied by the market, but they are still regarded as the 事务supreme. Being conservative towards traditional knowledge and unable to understand the arrival of a new civilization may result in schizophrenia. Integrating and responding to the four civilizations in a timely manner will lead to a winner-take-all in the market.